This evening, Books and Books is very pleased to welcome Ms. Claudia Mason, presenting her new book, Finding the Supermodel in You. Ms. Mason is a supermodel and actress who has been featured on the covers of all the leading fashion magazines, including Vogue, Elle, W, and Cosmopolitan. She has appeared in fashion campaigns for the likes of Louis Vuitton, Fendi, and Versace. And most recently, she was named the spokesperson for the American Stroke Association. In this book, teens will learn how to be happy, confident models who can survive the front lines of fashion. The expertise Ms. Mason passes along to would-be models is equally relevant for all teens, as well as to adults. Here to tell us more about it, please give a very warm welcome to Ms. Claudia Mason. Hello, everyone. Actually, I think you've got a couple inches on me,
Oh, yeah.
so I want to make sure that mic is tall.
Are you hearing me, everyone? Yes? Okay, hello. Great. Hi, so happy that you all have come. We just met earlier with Inez, of course. I'm like seeing faces that are familiar. So lovely that everyone is here. And, I'm doing this book tour. This book means a lot to me. I'm so happy that I was able to write it. It's my way of giving back to the industry that's been so incredible to me. And like I've been saying, it's not just for the would-be model and how to avoid the potential pitfalls of the industry, but it's for their parents. It's for anyone interested in knowing more about the business. It's great tips on how to grow your confidence and reminders that we can all have no matter what age. So I have a passage, and I just love this bookstore, I just want to say, and the power of bookstores and the importance that they're still in business is it's very important, and it's beautiful to be here. So thank you, Books and Books. I have a piece that I'd like to read from the book, fun part of it, and then I would love to answer any questions that you guys have. So there we go. I am going to start reading. So everyone can hear me? This is good? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so and it is just because I'm reading from the middle of the book, from the fashion shows. It's a crazy time, Fashion Month. I'm sure that those of you who don't know have heard. And I just wanted to read a little kind of story that I have in this book that models go through that the general public generally does not know anything about. And it's a little humor, so off we go. They would ooh la la and tut 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 with their mouths turned down at the corners. Their eyes would roll upward to the good Lord, and their hands holding little pins would suddenly jab you or be thrown up in the air in a gesture of sheer exasperation, as if they were your irascible neighbor who has dragged you to court for the 50 millionth time over your not respecting how to properly dispose of your trash, however tidily you have disposed of it time and again. Let me introduce you to the French seamstress. Voila. She is all of 4'10", if that, typically round in shape and as fiery and ill-tempered as Satan himself. Ooh la la, indeed. These women drove me crazy when I was doing the top fashion shows around the world and would arrive in Paris for Fashion Week looking forward to all the excitement, only to deflate the moment I stood in front of the martinet of seamstresses, à la française. They make it seem as though you are a CIA spy and hence a traitor if you so much as put on an ounce of weight, therefore changing your waist size by an infinitesimal degree, your hip size by the tiniest margin, your breast size from an A to a slightly swollen A, and your head size from something altogether different in size and shape from yesterday, however impossible that might be. It somehow happened, according to them, and it was all your fault, you terrible creature. Mais comment c'est possible? Mais c'est pas vrai, Véronique. Ouh! The seamstresses fitting you would glance over to her peer and say, c'est vachement pas possible. As she'd glaringly look up at you and then back to Veronique and carry on insulting you to her colleague, assuming that you didn't speak French. The translation to that is, but how is this possible? But this isn't true, Veronique. Oh, this is really not possible. Ah oui. You have to deal with these difficult women during Fashion Week, as well as many other often volatile personalities occupying the various positions in a designer's team that make it possible for a design house to thrive in the cutthroat, seasonably changing world of fashion. It's important for you to understand, however, as I finally did, that the seamstresses are fundamentally stressed out and overworked. They want to finish their endless, thankless chores of sewing and adjusting and readjusting and get home to their families at some point in the overlong workdays. Since you can't escape them anyway, take this as an opportunity to learn patience and compassion. Fashion Week is indeed a runaway train on speed, and it never stops long enough at a station for anyone to breathe, eat, bathe, or scream. It just keeps going on. It just keeps on going. Can't even read my own words. All the way from New York to London to Milan to Paris. My friends, the 4 weeks or so of the international 4-city tour of the twice-annual Pret-a-Porter Fashion Weeks are not for the faint of heart. You must be in your best shape, your top form to survive just a few days, never mind a few weeks of each fall, winter, and spring, summer season. This is where a model is truly tested. Think of yourself as an athlete, an NBA player in Game 7 of the finals. Everything is on the line, and it is up to you to perform at your best. That is what the fashion community that has opened its privileged gates to you is expecting, your A game out there on the runway, looking every bit the queen that you are, and that you must be, even when you don't feel it inside. You are a performer on a large stage when you walk the catwalk. All eyes are on you, from the front row heavy hitters of fashion's elite to pedestrians in Beijing watching live on a big screen. You are performing and selling the vision the designer and his team have created, which they hope will sufficiently impress the magazines, stores, websites, blogs, etc., to widely circulate and promote it to a broad base of consumers. Again, this is a business. In the end, it's all about the money. So remember not to take any of the sometimes cruelty of Fashion Week to heart. It's not about you. We would have to wait. We would have to wait around at Saint Laurent, par exemple, for hours on end, waiting to be fit for his upcoming couture show. The twice-annual Pret-a-Porter shows plus the twice-annual Haute Couture shows make it a non-stop fashion party practically all year round. Although the couture shows are produced only in Paris, as opposed to the Pret shows, at least the major ones, which are in Milan, London, and Paris, and New York. The shows were always a time to look forward to, as well as to dread, as it was an opportunity to reunite with all of your industry peers and buddies. The parties, the dinners, the men lavishing gifts and flowers and promises upon us. Oh, fun times. The designers would book us in advance, so we'd be met at the airport by a personal driver for that week and taken directly to a fitting. At a designer studio or a meeting with our local agent or directly to a show itself in some rare cases, where the fitting would occur as soon as we arrived. And then we'd be put into hair and makeup and sent off to the catwalk. That could only happen during the Pret-a-Porter seasons, as the Haute Couture looks demanded much more time and effort of the seamstresses as well as of the whole design team. The documentary that portrays this very well is The Last Emperor, about one of the last great designers of the old guard, Valentino. I had the pleasure of working with him, as well as with the late, great Yves Saint Laurent, when he was still at the helm of his own line, even though advanced illness had greatly debilitated him. I remember being pretty wiped out at a fitting for Saint Laurent's Haute Couture show one season. I'd been eating mostly fruits and nuts, and salad niçoise, a fully balanced dish, for days before in anticipation of the shows. I'd also exercised every day for around 10 days prior, and here I was in my white robe, black sheer hose, and black heels, with a staple of the YSL look, a beautiful red-stained mouth, hair pulled way up into a tightly back in a ponytail or chignon. It was at the famous YSL Atelier on Avenue Marceau in the 16th arrondissement. I had been waiting my turn for my fitting, and there were quite a lot of other girls waiting too. At YSL, it was an all-day affair. That's how they conducted their fittings. And if you didn't like it, too bad. If you were booked for the show, you had to sit around dressed in the aforementioned regalia, waiting your turn to be fit and presented to Monsieur Saint Laurent and his creative team. In fashion, you will often find yourself waiting around. Instead of reacting to the tedium, once again, use this as an opportunity to grow your patience skills. And have your smartphone or Kindle or other reading material at hand, or crossword puzzles, or whatever suits you. I had been quietly reading as I sat in a chair in the hair and makeup room. We had to get full hair and makeup for Saint Laurent fittings, as well as for those of Valentino and a few other designers. They wanted to see how their clothes looked on us with full hair, and makeup. That's just the way they did it. We would also need to walk up and down an area set up like a mini catwalk in some cases, so they could really get a feel for how a particular look would appear in the actual show. It was time-consuming and a pain in the ass to me at the time, but there was also something old Hollywood about it. And since this is rarely done anymore, I'm glad I got to experience a special time in fashion history where I had the privilege of working with the great master designers who addressed some of the world's most glamorous divas of the stage, screen, and social worlds. I felt like I was now a part of this elite inner circle of fashion history, and it was a delightful perspective that brightened up the more mundane and superficial aspects of the job. When I finally got past the Saint Laurent seamstresses poking me and pinching what little extra flesh I might have had, accompanied by their exasperated sighs and comments, and after my makeup was perfectly placed on my face, my hair sprayed to within an inch of its life with the ever-fashionable L-net, the decades-long staple of every hairstylist, I was buttoned up in my now perfectly fit to me in that moment, don't breathe or a button might pop off and cause a fuss in the changing room garment. If a button did pop off, the seamstresses would be called in to remedy the situation at once. And they would give you the evil eyes they quickly rattled off in French, how this clearly was your fault, for instantaneously gaining weight as they defended themselves and their work to the impatiently waiting creative team that sat or stood on either side of Monsieur Saint Laurent. When all of this mayhem and drama was behind me, and I would actually be standing in front of Monsieur Yves Saint Laurent in designs of his that he had personally chosen for me to wear, it was exhilarating. It was a mini performance, as I would walk a bit for him, then stand, and casually pose, as was expected of me. He would always look up at me and say, "Elle est belle, elle est magnifique." What a compliment from such a legendary dressmaker. He would approve my outfit or decide on an adjustment to the hem or sleeve length or style, but he always smiled at me. I felt like the most beautiful girl in the world in those moments. It was also inspiring to have the great Loulou de la Falaise, who was part of his design team there. She was a beautiful woman who possessed such an innate sense of style. She was inherently kind and had a certain grace and ease about her that was always a comfort to me. Whether standing or sitting next to Monsieur Saint Laurent, she'd smoke her cigarette through an elegant holder as she languidly looked you over and waited for the master's approval. It's important to know that very often the creative teams that work with the designers are the same people who are hired to create the looks for advertising campaigns and editorial shoots and magazine covers. You want to always remember that the creative director for a fashion show might be recommending you the next day for that particular designer's advertising campaign. Creative directors, stylists, producers, and casting directors work a myriad of jobs in the fashion industry, so develop relationships with them on whatever job you happen to be, since they most likely will be the reason you're hired for the next job, and on and on. In this way, the business is small, so avoid burning any bridges. The man behind the man, Saint Laurent, was a certain Monsieur Pierre Berger. Monsieur Berger had a personality style all his own. I distinctly remember how he would control the runway lineup of the Saint Laurent couture shows. Monsieur Berger was a short man who possessed the bearing of an army general at war. He would stand backstage right in front of the monitor that displayed the show live, just behind the stylish curtain that separated the backstage area from the audience, and fiercely grip the skinny upper arm of the model that was next to go out on stage. His eyes would be glued to the screen, not to the models whose arms he would be draining of blood, his grasp so firm that it could be really painful. You would do the best you could, as you didn't want to upset this man. You would stand there, barely breathing, staring ahead, taking quick, dart-like glances at him, praying he wouldn't lock eyes with you, or, alternatively, hoping to meet his stare with a smile to warm his heart, however much you knew you were seriously fantasizing in that moment. You wanted him to let you go already as he pushed you a little forward, then changed his mind, pulled you back, pushed you a little forward, while you tottered back and forth on your high heels that were either too big or too small for you. The shoe sizes are always off for the shows. Don't ask me why. Be prepared. It drove all of us models crazy. Either you were stuffing your shoes, if they were an open toe, of course. If they were open toe, good luck. with anything you could find, paper, plastic, cotton, or you were in excruciating pain because the shoes were too small. At the moment when Monsieur Berger decided to have you walk out onto the catwalk, he'd push you forward almost to the edge of the curtain where you would be visible to the audience, then release his grip and command you to, allez, go! I would feel like I'd been released from rope bondage and was now about to walk the plank. Needless to say, he was not a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I was nervous to step out onto a YSL haute couture runway, which for the fall-winter collection had required me to take off my gloves, scarf, and coat, hold them in one hand gracefully, and manage not to drop any of them while keeping my bag held lightly in my hand, all the while looking as cool as Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's. As I glided down the runway and showed off the fine feathers I was decked out in, I was nonetheless relieved to be out of this man's iron grip. Cool, cool, cool is the name of the game. Never let him see you sweat. A model on a runway, particularly a Parisian haute couture runway, is a woman of sophistication, grace, elegance, and cool. A fantasy portrayed to sell this image to the woman who could buy these clothes, and some of those buyers are right there in the front row. Designers at the great fashion houses like Saint Laurent might change, and styles come and go, but within the fashion industry, cool is never out of style. I don't care how many times the style of the runway walk changes, or the look of the models on the catwalk. One thing will always stay constant, and that is the cool. You gotta have it, girls. It's the essence of fashion. Bum, 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 bum. Well, thank you. Thank you. I love reading this passage because it just makes me giggle, and I see my darling friend, fellow supermodel Ines Rivero, who has joined us. Yay. So happy. Oh, thank you. Thank you. What, Ines? I didn't hear you. What? Oh, thank you. Right back at you. So, you guys, it's so wonderful to have you. And I just like reading that because it gives people what Ines and I know so well, and all of us insiders in the industry, is it gives people an idea of what happens behind the scenes in this. We're perfect little beings up there in these perfect clothes, and it's not the case backstage. Like all the entertainment industries, there's a whole other story. But does anyone have any questions for me? Oh, thank you.
I'm a little older than you girls, but I remember my teenager years, I was looking at supermodels in a way that you were goddesses. I'm not sure if it's because I'm older now, but I think the supermodel concept has completely changed. So I would like to know, why do you think that the vision of a supermodel before in your ages is so different from what is a supermodel now?
Totally. It's a great question. And people it's something that I've heard before and been asked. I mean, before, when my time, which was really the 90s, it was such a smaller industry. Not so many magazines, not so many models, not so many modeling agencies, not even so many clients. And the online world hadn't exploded, right? Because the internet came in the late 90s and everything after that. So that has greatly affected our industry. So the handful of supermodels during my time, now it's, supermodel, top model, they change what is it supposed to be every 2 seconds. And I think the whole supermodel era that I was a part of, there were certain powers that be in the industry that felt the girls were getting a little too powerful. And it wasn't then about the clothes. So then it was like, let's knock that down, right, the powers that be again, and not make it about the model. So you had there's always beautiful girls and boys, so nothing to do with beauty, but whatever the reason was, they're picking girls that also didn't look as varied. There were not so many different looks from different backgrounds. It was more of one look. You had the Eastern European thing came in, the Brazilian, and all of that is great, but it was one or the other. There wasn't a big blend like it was during my time. And also, I think, which is it enables the industry then not to make a super of a model, because you don't have all these different looks. So I think it had to do with the online world coming up and making things more even keel. So there weren't so many girls weren't allowed to be special. The powers that be rebelled against that also. And then you have, through social media and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and everything that we know of now the rise of that, and of course Giselle and Kate Moss were in their own little orbits, but there weren't tons around them like it was really mostly in the 90s. And now you have Gigi Hadid, Kendall Jenner, and all of this that are so popular and again, they're all beautiful, so nothing to do with beauty, because beautiful people are born all the time. Why are certain people picked? This is a question that I don't know who can exactly answer. But also, they come from the reality TV world, and they have millions of followers. So then that brought back the supermodel, right, in a way. And then we used to be muses, but now we're marketing partners. Because if Estee Lauder is going to give a contract to someone, who do they want to give it to? Someone who has 70 million, 1,000 trillion, billion, zillion followers, because it's a marketing partner, not just a muse. So it's a great question, and I'm sure other people could go on, and I could think, but I think it has to do with the industry changing in every way, like the world and this online, but you know, there's still fun to be had and money to be made. And anyway, I answered your question, did I? Because then I go, and I go on and on. I'm like, what was the question? Thank you for asking. Does anyone else have any questions? I should have told you to prepare one. Ines, do you have a question?
I have 1,000 questions.
Me too. Me too, by the way, but I don't want to.
No, but I think that I also made it clear you had already started the reading. But how do you think has it really changed for, let's say, my daughter is 14 or Julia 17. They wanted to start modeling. Do you think it'll be pretty much the same way that we did it when we were? I mean,
Starting, you're saying?
yeah.
Starting
I mean,
out.
how would you start your career now versus us? Because this is probably changed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was, and I forgot the inception of your career, and you can tell us, but I was discovered yeah, exactly, the old-fashioned way, right? So I was in a music store, which I go into here to help guide people with all of this. And a scout came up to me. She was an elite petite scout, and I had my very short friend with me. And the only thing I remember from this, exactly. I remember the scout came up to me. I was 5'10" at 13, and she was like, "Give this card to your mother. You have to come into the office and model." And I normally look for short girls, but I saw you. You have to come in. So my friend, who was short, turned all the girls against me the next day in school. That's all I remember, because she was so mad she didn't get picked. Anyway, the point is, so I think they start still the old-fashioned way of scouts coming up in music stores, like happened to me, or wherever at concerts, or that is just going to happen. I think scouts should always be there. Or you walk yourself into an agency, like a lot of the top models did too, right? You find out online when the open call is. Those are the two classic ways. Other than that, again, Instagram. Oh my God, some of the big agencies are discovering people online on the handles, social media handles. I'll have a social media handle specifically for looking for great new faces. You know, show us your best selfie or whatever, your best snap. Send it in. Use this social hashtag, and we'll pick through the feed. And if we like you, we'll call you in for a meeting. I mean, this is really happening at the top agencies. So then again, the whole online world has changed everything. So the old-fashioned way of being discovered in a whatever on the street, or you walk yourself in, or now social media, I think. You know, I think it's amazing that girls and boys, because we forget that the boys are part of this industry too. It's just that we make so much more money, and it's one of the only industries, or the only one, that absolutely. The women still, because women's fashion predominantly, it's a bigger market for women than men. So such great questions, thank you. I'm so happy you asked. But I wanted to continue and said that I think, Ines, that it's really this whole social media craze and popularity that anyone can be a star. I mean, whatever, but that idea, which reality TV brought in too, of course, before even Instagram. And I think it's great. I think it's great that transgenders are able to, or big, plus size. Some people hate that expression, but it should be open to everyone. I think that's the wonderful part of what I see is from reality TV into the social media kind of stuff. So if someone thinks that they're great, like if your daughter, well, she could start easily because of you, but let's say she didn't have a famous mother, takes great pictures of herself, sends it in to IMG, Ford, Elite, whoever, and she could be picked, So it's interesting. Because I think some of those yeah, it is similar. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you're a fan, but it says like in a world of Kardashians, be an Audrey.
Oh, in a world, I didn't hear of card. Yes, I love that one. I
Kardashians,
saw that. Be an Audrey.
And that's something that I want. Well, she doesn't have anything in the Kardashians.
It's horrible.
Wait, what are you saying is horrible? Sorry, I didn't follow you.
No, because what I'm saying is that they can, how we can, you know, your book is about teenagers and
Yes.
they're so inspired. I
Yep.
don't want to say inspired, but this, you know, Kardashians, and how can I teach my daughters to be an Audrey? But they don't even know who was Audrey. Right? Like all they're seeing is.
I know. But how can it's an excellent question. Then you think, okay, if I had a kid today, like, yeah. But then maybe it's up to, I know it's true because that's what they're getting in their face all the time. And look, kids are going to like whatever they like. And I'm not a mom, so you know that better and how to deal with your own child than I do. But we've all been kids. And so we can discover Audrey. I mean, I can't believe that someone wouldn't know who Audrey Hepburn is. It's a great, like, I'm just trying to think of how to, hi, John. I love seeing people I know. I always call them out. Hello. I know, but I mean, I know, but we all know people who are not our generation. So how does that happen? I don't know. I don't know how to. I mean, I think that then the parents, how you discuss things with your kids. I'm not saying it's all on you, but I guess, right? What they're getting in school and stuff, and then to understand, to look back at fashion. If someone wants to be, I have a little scoreboard at the end to help. That really says, if you're really interested in fashion, let's say modeling, go and look at go online and look at old issues. Don't just look at the last 6 months, you know. There's history to everything, and so know who, because also to make this industry last and longer than just being the next hot thing, you have to know how to be a professional on set, how to have conversations with people. And people, some photographers will be fascinated. Mario Testino always loved when we'd talk about whatever history, we'd talk about our art, culture. If you know about that stuff, you're much more interesting to clients and photographers, and guess what? They're going to book you again. But if you're just like, and you don't know anything, and you don't care about anything but a Kendall or a Kardashian, then there's nothing to talk about. You're not that interesting. And then you're not going to be that interesting in front of the camera. So it's not just the pretty faces. There's tons of pretty faces. You have to, Ines and I know, you have to, you know, it's a whole career. And it's how you bring yourself to it. And you're more interesting when you know about Audrey. Does that make sense? Am I talking in circles? No. Oh, good, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm repeating myself. Okay, I love doing these, but they're still kind of new, as you can tell. Great. John, question, yes?
What are the top mistakes to avoid in your first time dealing with an agent or an agency?
Wait, say, what is the biggest mistake?
Like what are the things that you, like the best recommendation you give? You have, you know, a teenager, like my daughter, wants to go down that path, and, you know, you meet with an agency, it might be one of the big ones, or it might be something smaller.
Yeah.
What are the things you need to keep in mind and perhaps not, you know, avoid?
As a parent, I think you have to show up with your teen. My mother, both my parents, a little crazy in some ways, but where they were both good with, is they were involved from the get-go. They were like, they're not taking my 14-year-old and sending her off. Sorry, she's finishing school. So dealing with the agents when you're so young, you need a adult figure in your life. I mean, 14 years old, first of all, you're not legally supposed to sign anything. I think under, and I have it in the book, it's not under 16, it's under 18 in America at least. So you have to have a parent or guardian. And you just have to be present with them, so you're listening to what the agents are saying, and you're not just throwing your child to the glam, because we all get very, you know, any of the entertainment industries are so glamorous, and a lot of parents are just throwing their kids into it. But you want to take care of your child's well-being. Do they want to do this, or do you want them to do this? Listen to what the agents are saying, and work with the agents. And if you don't like what they're saying, I mean, you know, it's just having conversations with them. You want your kid to stay in school, or you want to adjust the school schedule, or how can we work this out? Speak to them. Develop a relationship with the agents, because they're the ones that are setting up these jobs and these appointments and everything. So I think what to avoid, what is the mistake that a parent will make with a 14-year-old, let's say, is to let the 14-year-old deal with it on their own. That's crazy to me. It's not fair, because no one is equipped at 14 to do it on their own. And if they have strong grounding, and if someone doesn't have a good parent or guardian, I always say there's Alateen, which is a wonderful free program for teens. It's not just if they have relatives or friends who are drug or alcohol addicted. It's an incredible community where they can find support. So I'm sure all of you are great parents here, and that's not applicable here, but I just wanted to say that, because some people have asked me in other places, but I don't have a parent or guardian. It's like, what do you do? But anyway, that's really what comes up, John, because how are you supposed to know? You're going to learn about the industry as you go on with your teen. But you're much more equipped and able as an adult to deal with it. You can't leave it up to your kid. Does that make sense? And then if you don't know what the agent's saying, let's say you don't know what Vogue is or who Calvin Klein is or what is a catalog job as opposed to an advertising, opposed to a runway, you ask the questions of the agents.
Or where do you get information to know whether in commercial terms to tell you, well,
You have to be, definitely being with a good agency. The top agencies are not going to tell you something about a commercial contract that's BS. They couldn't say in business. So the key would be to be with a reputable, good agency for sure. And then make sure if your child, let's say, is not with a key booker / agent / manager, because they're been called different things, now it's model manager, then ask as a parent to have a meeting. Who's the head booker here? Not in a rude way, but I'd like to have a meeting and inform myself more on what the plan is for my child's career. And I want to, so you're coming as a strong figure, so they can't mess around. My father had done that. I got to give him credit, but he went into Elite in the early days, and he asked to speak to the boss. He was like, "I need to sit down with you and understand something, because this is my kid." And they respected that, So I think we get scared as adults, because I certainly could have a teen today. I don't. To go, we don't want to ruin the opportunity. But you're an adult dealing with these adults. Go in and have a meeting. How are you supposed to know about contracts and what they're telling you? But you have to trust something. So if you're with a reputable agency, you have to trust that they're giving you the right information. Because then if they're all screwed up, they wouldn't be in business. There's a point where, And there's a great organization, because there's no union in this country. In England, they have one now for models that is called the Model Alliance. Sarah Ziff, a model, started it. And she's working really hard to get a union for models. So a lot of stuff is taken care of, like actors have, SAG, AFTRA. That would be helpful. Also, a parent can get in touch with the Model Alliance, and I have all of that in the book. Sarah Ziff. Yeah, so it's good. Coco Rocha is a part of it, and yeah, it's good. It's wonderful. It's helpful, and helpful for parents. Yeah. Does anyone else have any question? A kooky, it doesn't have to be. Yes, please. Hi. What's your name?
Alejandro.
Hi, Alejandro. Nice
How
to
are
meet
you?
you. Good. Thank you.
So, do you see a future in maybe any what's the word? Any what was an agency? You just said the word. I'm sorry. I'm having a little.
Wait, I just said the word agency. Oh, bookers. Oh, union. Right, the Model Alliance.
Do you see any future in that here in America happening anytime soon?
I don't think anytime soon that it's going to happen. I think they have a big upward climb. So I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening anytime soon, but the Model Alliance is a great organization, and they're doing great things. And there's a lot of reasons probably why they're having a tough time. But I think it's important for models to have a union and to like actors have, where there's a health insurance is set up and all of that kind of stuff. So let's hope. Maybe you could even send in a comment. No, seriously, because the movements happens with people. Maybe you want to look them up online, the Model Alliance, and I have them in the book. So buy the book first. Did everyone hear that? Buy the book first. And then the information's there, and then you can get in touch with the Model Alliance and say, how can I help? Or, please, yay, add my voice to your movement. But again, when you're with reputable agencies, you're set up, from the start. There's always going to be stuff. Chapter 5 in my book addresses certain of these stuff that you have to deal with in this industry. But if you're with good people, a good agency, you have some stability behind you. Support is so important. Family support, because the entertainment industries are all the same. Hollywood, fashion, sports, music, theater, Olympics. These are all, it's youth-based. The longevity of a typical athlete's career is 3.5 to 5.5 years. The typical model's career is 4 years. That's insane. And these are facts.
To that, I have a question.
Yes.
A lot of girls
Yeah.
That's my only experience, that's why I'm saying our time.
Mhm.
But a lot of the girls, you know, you dedicate a certain amount of time. Usually you don't go to college. You get out of high school, you go try to be a model, and you dedicate some time to it. And it could be 2 years and then you realize it doesn't work, but it doesn't really happen that way. Like you try for a long time, 5, 6 years, and you travel, and it's so nice because you get to travel and you can kind of live the day to day. And when you turn back, you realize that maybe 10 years went by. You weren't very smart about your money. And I understand that you talk about that in your book, right?
Yes,
So I think it's such an important part of it. Because the girls, some people when they ask me, say, well, you have a tip, and I say, well, yeah, plan B. Think about that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because no one's really going to tell you, they do tell you no, right? But I mean, how do you talk about that in your book?
Yeah.
Like, how do you approach it?
No, thank you, Ines, for that question. And chapter 9 is life after college and life after modeling, and 6 is managing all that money. So so to address your questions, I mean, again, I was really lucky, and I know you too from the little I know about your background, but with parents that didn't throw me to the wolves, let's say, right? So there was a setup with, okay, you're making this kind of money now, let's put some aside, right? But then again, personal decisions. I can't dictate who's going to do that, but I think it's wise because we know how short-lived this industry is. You get a check for $10,000, are you going to blow it on a bag or 3 bags? I mean, hello. I don't think so, but hey, to each his own. Buy your fun bag and then put a little aside, fine. College and life after modeling. I had parents, I have to give them credit here, that said, okay, during high school, back and forth, you model, but you have to finish school and you got to get into college. You don't have to go, but you have to get in. Went through all of that, so I got in. It felt really good, too. It gave me something. Then I moved to Paris to do it full time. Because as we know, you cannot go to college from 18 to 22, the normal years, and have a full modeling career in the normal college way. Of course not. Right. But I got in, and then I never went because that wasn't my path. But I think girls who don't do that, you can take night classes, and I address this in chapter 9. There are ways around it. If you, as you said, you try a little, maybe it's not happening, which wasn't our case, but let's say, then you have to be wise after 18 and go, maybe I have to sign up at NYU just because I'm in New York, I'm thinking, or wherever, whatever town you're in, go take, or Hunter College, whatever. Take some classes and use the connections that we make in this industry for the springboard to the next. There are so many amazing people we work with. So you keep the connection, then you figure out what you want to do. Is it in the arts? Do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be an agent? Do I want to... And you use the connections and go to school and educate yourself. You can do that while you're modeling. Yeah, because it's these incredibly big careers don't happen. This is not the average situation. So you have to set yourself up. And if things are not happening after a while, it's that, I put that in chapter 9. Figure out who you are, try to at least, and then make some plans. Don't give up modeling, but then be wise and incorporate something else into your life. Does that answer? Oh, good, okay. Oh, good. Steven, someone else I know came. Yay, oh.
Sorry, guys. My Uber driver,
Oh,
all the way out.
Uber, schmoober. No.
I have another question.
Yes, Ines, woohoo!
I don't know if it's a question, but I mean, it's something that I'm thinking about the things that happened to me, and I want to know how they translate to now, or what is your take on it? Like, what do you recommend the girls to do? How to deal with that? For example, it didn't happen to you that sometimes when you're in a world where, you wake up, it's first of all, it's a glamorous world, and then you go and then you go to shoot with the best photographer, you have the best makeup artist, and you're always looking great, But there are days, just like all of us, and I think it applies to men too, but sometimes you wake up and you're like, yeah, I'm kind of pretty, and then some days you wake up and you're like, I don't want to go anywhere, and you're just the same person,
We have bad hair days too.
Right?
Lots of times. Right?
But I think that one of the things that affected me, I mean, that's, I think, normal for all of us,
Yes.
right? But one of the things that affected me was, you're not as secure as we are now at our age. I don't care if someone doesn't think I'm pretty.
Yeah.
But at that time, it used to affect me a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of girls were affected, and the background comes in. That's a very strong thing. You have parents that loved you and that took care of you, and that makes you a stronger person. But I saw cases where girls did not take it very well. It affected their eating habits.
Yeah.
It affected their, you know, a lot of them went crazy, and so how do you, what do you recommend in your book for things like that? Like how to deal with those emotions?
And that's a great question. I mean, and I do deal with that throughout the book. I wouldn't say in one chapter. And you just said it. How we're set up, and again, the mothers out there know more than I do because I'm not a mom. But I know from being a kid, right, we all were, and having a mom, how are you set up in life from the get-go? Whatever the hell you're going to do, not just this industry. And then you have a grounding in yourself. And if you don't have that, that's why I speak about Alateen. Go and find it in a community if you have no trusted adults around you. So then you have a little bit of knowledge about, I'm really okay with rejection is what you're talking about. There's always this kind of rejection that you're dealing with. Oh, thank you. Do you know I was thinking of that? But love that. Love this group. Support. It's awesome. Grounding in yourself and rejection. You're always dealing with rejection. Yeah, that's the thing. That's always dealing with rejection. I just go back to the parents because if a kid is set up and their mother and father is telling them how great they are from the beginning, they can deal with rejection a little more easily. It's still hard. So, okay, we got the parent stuff. I keep saying that. We all know that. So there you are in life and you're dealing with rejection. I mean, I developed some spiritual tools along the way, you know, that just helped me. Little positive affirmations, if you will. Remembering something about the idea of the will to good and that I'm going to do good despite this situation now, however that resonates with everyone. Remembering times when I had success in my life, even if I was 6. So let's say it's a 14 or 15-year-old deal with rejection. Do you go back like a sense memory or a memory of when I got an A for this whatever subject in school or that teacher patted me on the back? Like seriously, those little things that hello, thank you, welcome. You remember that gives you confidence in that moment to deal with that person who's rejecting you, and then to somehow start to remember it's not about you. I say that in the book. They want the blonde. They want someone shorter. They want a different skin color. I mean, Jesus Christ. They want someone who can also, I just laugh because we know all of us here who are from the industry. They want someone who can be a gymnast too. Oops, you can't throw yourself up and down on ropes. Oh well, next. So you can't take it personally because it's not your, you develop that as you go on. I do. Yes, I do. Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, because that's a tough one for everyone, and like you're saying, at any age, but certainly when you're young. But I think, Ines, I think that, you know, I don't know about you, but I know for myself, sometimes the worst rejection, or the feelings from rejection, when it made me feel so awful about myself, and I couldn't reach a mom or a trusted friend, let's say, maybe what pulled me out of those feelings of just feeling dreadful is some of the past accomplishments that I had. I mean, that's what I went back to. So if you don't have it yet in the fashion industry, I'm thinking about the teen, then somehow in their life, at whatever age, right, the A they got in their spelling class or I mean, seriously, you remember.
Definitely building up character.
Yeah.
But I think that applies to every industry.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's not just
It does, but
Absolutely.
Hello,
Hi, Stephen.
Steven Reader.
Yeah.
I've known Claudia a very long time. I was her agent for a long time. Still kind of am sometimes. I think after doing this for so long, 22 years, and watching all the girls and boys come through, I think what makes this industry so different and what you have to understand going into it is the loss of control. For a lot of industries, you are in control of yourself, you're in control of your job, you're managing a team, you're doing something, you're controlling the situation. For talent, whether it's modeling or acting, and even to a certain extent athletes, but they have a little more control because they are able to practice and practice and practice. There's no control, so that manifests itself in a lot of unhealthy ways.
It
if you don't have a strong
Kind of
character.
unstable, right?
Yeah.
I'm
It
sorry.
makes it unstable in a way.
Well, it just makes as a human being, you don't have control. I'm an agent. I get up. I have a job to go to every day. I have things I have to check off every day. Things I have to do every day. But as a model, you don't. Like she said, they could want the blonde. It has nothing to do with you.
Right, you don't
have
take it
to take
personally.
yourself out of it and say it has nothing to do
Right.
with
And
you.
what's great too is then what we have control over in our day is like, okay, so get up and go to the gym. You know, then read a book and inform yourself on something else. To put our focus on something else so that you're not consumed with just the industry. So then that also helps, you know, with not just staring at myself in the mirror like, oh, I look awful and they rejected me. I mean, I'm making fun of it, but it's real. We've all felt that. I mean, I'm not making fun of people going through that. I'm making fun of that moment because I'm standing here now and thinking how we go down a spiral instead of how can we pull ourselves up? Let me go out and run a track, play basketball, go to dance class, buy an ice cream cone and fucking smile. Oh my God, I cursed. You know, something, just pull ourselves up out of it because there are big problems in the world. And so, I don't know, that's what I tend to see now, like get out of the little myopic viewpoint of the world through fashion. Oh my God. So somehow teens can, and what's great now is there's so much at their fingertips on their smartphones. Look up positive affirmations, boom. So much easier than, you know, when we were kids and we didn't have that. They can find that right away, you know. Everyone knows who Deepak Chopra is and Oprah and these incredible sayings, they help.
Sometimes they're brutal. The way, like, I remember, like, very thin girls being called piggish and, you know, all kinds of things. And that was also brutal. You know, so that should, I don't know if it's not different now. My time, it was awful.
No, it's awful.
Yeah, you were gorgeous people and we're calling their names and
yeah. And the reason I read that passage is because also I wanted to make clear that the seamstresses I'm not hating on. I'm saying they're overworked and overstressed and they had to get back to their families. But at 19, standing there getting poked and being so skinny and telling me that I was, you know, oh, you didn't have this yesterday. It's like, you know, how do you deal with that? Yeah, absolutely brutal. But you know what though? It's brutal, and that's the entertainment industry. So it's all the entertainment industries. Film, fashion, Olympics, sports, theater, and you have to know that going in. And that's kind of up to the people who are raising kids, because if kids think they're getting into some easy breezy, nice little ride, well, life isn't that. No business is. That's the problem, is that you're so young in this business. And that goes back to what I was saying before. You can't go into this alone as a kid. You're not equipped. It's a business. It's a shark eats shark, you know. But every business is. But they're not going to. People are going to be assholes. This is not, we don't have control of other people. But how do you absorb it? And how do you not take it in so much? And how do you go back and go on, you know? I think so. And then if you don't have any family, go and seek communities that will help you. Because it's a tough, entertainment industries are no joke. It's all about community, right? I mean, it takes a village, that whole saying. And this goes for life, as someone, you were just saying, it's not just this industry. You know.
I don't remember, it was a long text that she put, because she was getting bullied on her Instagram account because she was big. I don't know if you've seen
Yes,
Gigi
absolutely,
Hadid,
I
how
remember.
beautiful she is and her body is
Beautiful
gorgeous.
girl.
And I think she's doing great actually right now, and she's still the same body. Do you think there's a little bit more, they're finally going back to that? A little bit more, because now that I look at our pictures and I look at the girls now, our bodies have changed.
Yeah.
But we were before too.
They're more accepting of different figures, like even the plus size, as we were saying before, transgender. It's wonderful, all of this stuff. It should be open to everyone. You know, whoever has whatever it is in front of the camera that you have to give, you know, however you look, you should be able to have an opportunity. So I think it is more open. And I think fashion changes like the wind. I mean, we know there's a bigger size in the 80s, a small size in the 90s. It goes up and down, up. I mean, it just is always changing. And what's new is like, really, is that new? Wasn't that like a decade ago? It's just kind of a new name. Yeah, exactly. Oh.
I'm watching everything, and literally, I mean, what he was doing in the 70s was So, I mean, we just go through cycles.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, there's not that much that we can do. You know, the humans aren't that great. You know, we're not that smart.
Right.
We just keep going through the same
Thing
thing
over and
and
over.
over again. And
A little
it's
different,
amazing to
but-
watch how accepting and open and diverse everything was, from the videos to the music to the and then somehow we got to this place of, you know,
Yeah.
anorexic white girls on the runway. You know what I mean? And of course, then
Heroin
everyone
chic.
realizes it doesn't sell a product because most women aren't. You know, so it's just, it's almost like we have to keep teaching ourselves the same things
Over and over. Totally. Yeah, totally. And those things we can't control. But how we, you know, take care of our bodies and our mental and emotional health and physical. I have a hysterical story here about health food. I'm not going to get into it now, but I was raised with a health food nut as a mom, and I thought she was killing me with her health food. Okay? It was so horrendous. And now I'm grateful because, you know, she gave me a good kind of setup in life. But yeah, we can just control what we can control, and you can't control the industry, but you can control so it doesn't take you. That's why I wanted to write this. You don't let it work you, you work it. Not that you're working it in a diva BS bitchy way, but so it doesn't run you over like a steam truck. And you know what? All of my fabulous model friends like yourself have said the same thing. And I just want to cry with gratitude because that means so much. It's really that good, guys. It really is.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
it's really great for, like, not just teenagers, it's great for all of us.
This is also-
I can
Ines,
still
thank
find
you
the
so much for
supermodel in
saying
me.
that. Yes, you can still find the supermodel in you, no matter what age or gender. Oh, but there's a question.
What's one of your favorite moments that's not in the book? Like some madcap adventure that happened that wasn't planned. Like for me, I was on a Concorde and sitting next to Peter Fonda and had no idea who he was.
So great.
Did you have like some of those amazing kind of crazy moments?
There absolutely was, and I'm just trying to think of one. There were so many. The one, well, it wasn't a fun memory, but this is the one that comes to mind probably because I was mentioning Mario Testino before. We were in Egypt doing a shoot, crossing the Nile. I mean, it's like fabulous upon fabulousness. We get to wherever we are, and this man is looking at me and looking at Mario and said,
How much for the girl?
He's like, how many thousands of camels do you want? And he kept looking at me, and I was like, you know, like, Mario. And Mario thought it was funny, because he has that personality. For those of us who know him, obviously he wasn't going to put anyone in danger, but it was like a moment like, this is not cute. Let's go back to the hotel. That's what comes. I mean,
And
that's
how many, did they ever, like, get to a number there? I'd like to know.
millions and trillions. No, I don't know.
Do they have enough camels?
Mario's like, how many do you got? I mean, I'll think about it.
I heard.
Yeah.
If that happened to me, and I'm not a supermodel.
Exactly. So not that. Let's think of something then more supermodel. I was dancing on stage with, and this dates me, but who the hell cares? James Brown, Terry Mugler fashion show. Okay. What is he, the Godfather or so, or something? Was? Yeah.
Wow.
Were you doing that, huh?
Just married my husband. Twice.
Oh,
Well,
I
my
love
daughter
it.
went to buy the book, though.
That's so awesome. Really, and thanks, Ines, for saying it. You know, it's not just for the teens, you guys, or their parents. There's little confidence-building tips that all adults know. I'm not telling you adults something you don't know, but little reminders that we get along our way of, you know.
You know, it's your point of view and your
Yeah.
experience, and you were able to live
Thank
a life that very few people get to live. It's very valuable.
Thank you so-
for sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Okay, thank you.
All right, folks, so if there are no more questions, then a note to our internet audience watching at home. There's still a couple minutes for you to call the number on your screen, and we can send Finding the Supermodel in You to wherever you are in the U.S. free of charge. For those of you here in the store, we have the book for sale at the counter in the front room over there. Claudia is going to be signing here at the table to the left of the podium. You all had such great questions, and it was so much fun hearing from Claudia. Please give Claudia Mason another hand. Thank you very much. Thank you, Claudia. All right.